And the ministry hopes to develop additional spaces in Regina and Saskatoon. 75 new supportive housing units were created in Regina and Saskatoon with the goal of developing 155 units overall. Better support individuals at risk of homelessness. The Income Assistance Mobile Workforce Pilot was launched to serve clients where they are. We're seeing a positive impact. Income assistance workers are now on site at 26 community-based organizations and locations in Regina, Saskatoon, Prince Albert, Moose Jaw, North Battleford, Yorkton, and La Ronge. In the 23-24 budget, we raised income assistance rates to provide an increase in benefits to help people with low incomes, families, and seniors to meet their basic needs. 23-24 was the third year out of our 3-year commitment to increase the seniors income plan benefit. The maximum monthly benefit today is $360. This compares to, it was $90 a month in 2007. Personal care home benefit increased by up to $400 per month, and said clients under the age of 65 who live in personal care homes received up to $684 more per month. The launch of the Saskatchewan Employment Incentive in January of this year is another way our government is making life more affordable for Saskatchewan families. This program provides a financial benefit of up to $600 per month to working parents with low incomes. By helping parents enter and stay in the workforce, this program will have lasting positive impacts on the quality of life for families with lower incomes. Finally, I'd like to highlight 2 significant pieces of legislation. In June, the Child and Family Services Amendment Act 2022 received royal assent. The bill is anticipated to become effective this spring and will improve child welfare services for children, youth, and families we serve by raising the age of the child from 16 to 18 years of age to allow youth to be supported as they transition to adulthood, strengthening language in the Act to enhance family, community, and cultural connections, and increasing the flexibility of information sharing, disclosure, and confidentiality in the best interests of the child or former child in care who's now an adult. On December 3rd, the Accessible Saskatchewan Act came into force. The purpose of the Act was to remove and prevent accessibility barriers that persons with disabilities experience. Work's underway to develop the Government of Saskatchewan Accessibility Plan by December of this year. Public survey is open this month to gather feedback to help guide this work. Pleased to turn to this year's ministry budget that provides more targeted investments to meet the evolving needs of clients. The 24-25 budget for the Ministry of Social Services is $1.54 billion, an increase of $112.4 million. That works out to 7.8% over the previous budget. The highlights include an increase to income assistance benefits, continued implementation of integrated approaches to respond to homelessness, investments to rejuvenate social housing and address vacancies, enhancements of services for people with disabilities, and increases to supports for at-risk individuals, families, children, and youth. We'll begin with the income assistance increases to support individuals and families with low income as they work to become more self-sufficient and independent to the best of their abilities. A $17 million investment will deliver the first full year of the Saskatchewan Employment Incentive that provides working families with low incomes with a monthly financial benefit, supplementary health benefits, access to discount bus passes, connections to employment, supports through the Ministry of Immigration and Career Training, access to the Saskatchewan Housing Benefit through the Sask Housing Corporation. A $7.4 million investment will increase the Saskatchewan income support benefits for the 3rd year in a row. This 3% increase will raise monthly benefits by up to $90 a month. Saskatchewan Assured Income for Disability benefits will also increase by 3%. A $6.34 million investment will raise monthly income benefits by up to $55 per month. Clients in both programs who are single or couples without dependent children will also benefit from increased monthly earned income exemptions, enabling those who work to keep more of what they earn. This aligns with the new Saskatchewan Employment Incentive Program that is targeted to families. Additionally, the personal care home benefit monthly income threshold will increase by another $100 this year to help make the cost of living in a licensed personal care home more affordable for seniors. The ministry remains committed to supporting individuals experiencing homelessness and those at risk of homelessness. In 24-25, the province will continue to implement the provincial approach to homelessness, investing $28.9 million, which is an increase the previous budget of $16.7 million. This includes a $7.2 million increase supporting ongoing emergency shelter operations across the province, and a $9.5 million capital investment for supportive housing spaces in Regina and Saskatoon. Previously mentioned the success of the Income Assistance Mobile Workforce Initiative. Pleased to share that this budget provides a $690,000 increase to expand the program to place up to 10 more ministry employees on site at select community-based organizations. We're also expanding trusteeship and money management supports by approximately 150 spaces. A $250,000 increase will help more clients across the province to pay their expenses each month. A new benefit is also being introduced in income assistance to support clients to secure identification so they have better access to services. Another key area of focus is social housing. The Sask Housing Corporation provides affordable rental options to people and families in 280 communities across the province who could not otherwise afford adequate, safe, and secure shelter. In 24-25, SHC will invest $83.4 million in the repair and maintenance of provincially owned housing units. This includes an additional $9.6 million in provincial funding to prevent and reduce vacancies and respond to the increased demand for social housing. In the coming year, investments will be focused where there is ongoing demand for those in greatest need, such as major urban centres, as well as northern Saskatchewan. 24-25 budget also provides additional funding to support people with intellectual disabilities. Additional funding of $10.4 million will support the changing service needs of current clients and delivery of residential and day programs to new clients. A $7.6 million investment will plan and construct 10 new group homes and 1 assessment and stabilization home. The Ministry will develop a new quality assurance team to strengthen relationships and oversight of homes supporting adults with intellectual disabilities. The Autism Spectrum Disorder Individualized Funding Program will receive a $4 million increase to continue to meet the needs of children and their families. The Saskatchewan Accessibility Office will partner with Rick Hansen Foundation to raise awareness about barriers to accessibility. The final area I'll highlight is increased funding to this year's budget to improve services and supports for at-risk families, children, and youth. These investments include a $2.7 million increase, which will support additional residential care options for children and youth with complex needs, enabling them to remain in their home communities. $500,000 in new funding to assist youth transitioning from care to access housing, employment, and educational opportunities, as was recommended by the youth advisory teams. And there's a $375,000 increase to expand intensive in-home services for at-risk families outside of Regina and Saskatoon to communities where those services do not exist. Ministry is also providing increased funding to partners providing support and out-of-home care services. This includes increasing foster care and extended family care allowance rates and higher funding to the Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder Network, as well as mobile crisis services in Regina, Saskatoon, and Prince Albert. Started my remarks today highlighting how the Ministry of Social Services works in partnership with community-based service providers across the province to deliver services that enable Saskatchewan people to achieve a better quality of life. In the coming year, the Ministry will provide an additional $13.7 million to third-party service providers it contracts with to effectively meet the needs of the people we jointly serve. I touched the microphone, I hope. We were told not to. We truly do not do this work alone. The Ministry has many partners, of course. Dedicated Ministry employees and community partners work together every day to help Saskatchewan's most vulnerable people with their immediate and ongoing needs by ensuring that people's basic needs are met, while also providing necessary support as individuals work towards self-sufficiency, supporting families and their children so they can stay together in safety, providing access to services for people with disabilities in their communities, increasing access to safe and affordable housing, and ensuring that children and youth in care have the support and services to be successful now and in the future. Thank you for listening to the opening comments by myself to the committee. And so we are ready now, my officials and myself, answer any questions that may come forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I will now open the floor for questions. I recognize Ms. Conway.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, approximately how many people from executive level of government to frontline workers work within the Ministry of Social Services, including the political staffers that staff your office?
I'll handle part of the answer, and then I'll pass along to Ms. Kratzik. In the political office here at the legislature, there are six staff members.
And in the ministry, there are 1,911 FTEs in 24-25.
Thank you. Minister, you'll recall the controversy that broke out in November of 2023 when Evelyn Harper was staying at the Sunrise. We had a number of questions around hotel use policy by the Ministry of Social Services, and then on February 8th, 2024, I'm going to say you penned a letter, but I believe it was Ms. Kratzik penned a letter with some of the data points that we were looking for. Did anyone else in the civil service assist with compiling those numbers outside of the Ministry of Social Services?
No one outside of the public service.
Thank you. As part of that letter penned by Ms. Kratzik, there's an outline of what has been spent, total hotel expenditures by the Ministry of Social Services in both income assistance and child family program streams. In the 2018-19 fiscal year, the total spent was roughly 1.7 million. In the 2019-2020 year, the total was roughly 1.3 million. In the 2020-21 year, it was roughly 1.38 million. 2021-22 year, it was roughly 2.7 million. And then the last year where we have the full, a number that covered a full year span is 22-23, where over 3 million was spent. And then I'll also note, I'm referring here to Appendix B of that letter, that the expenditures out to Sunrise for those same timeframes were 2018, $282, 2019, $1,027, 2020, $12,931, 2021, $37,041, big jump in 2022 at $220,474. I'm wondering, Minister, if you have an updated number on total hotel expenditures for the 2023-24 year and the total that was, just to complete that column regarding the Sunrise as well, because of the nature of the time that we got this letter, you provided us data for the 2023-24 years from April to September. So we only got the half of that year. Do you have that updated information today? And if so, can you tell me what those two global numbers are? Hotel expenditures generally, and then what was paid out to the Sunrise Motel.
Thank you. Devin Exner, Assistant Deputy Minister, Income Assistance. Just before I answer your question, I'll just go back, and I believe that you indicated that in 2018-19, the total expenditure was $1.7 million. Our record has that it was $1.166605, so just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. I rounded up 1 decimal too soon, 1.17. You're correct. Sorry about that.
With the fiscal year just ending, we do not have further information regarding the final total for the fiscal year of 23-24.
Minister, can you undertake today to provide me with those updated numbers as soon as you're in receipt of them?
I don't believe we were asked for that at any point in the past, so that information has not been compiled, and if you're asking if we will, we can take a look at that, see if we can get that.
Yeah, I guess I'm just asking for it now because back when we got this, I recognize that was the most up-to-date information you would have had. I guess, you know, I'm just a sad opposition MLA, so I don't know how these things necessarily work, but, you know, when I grab, I see everyone working very diligently in that department. When do you usually have those year ends available to you? Like, when do you think you can get the information?
Thank you. So as you've referenced the letter, the February 8th letter, you would know that we have implemented a couple of improvements to how we work with the hotel sector. First, we're implementing a new formal process to obtain quotes from 3 hotels, and we also have issued an RFP to implement a 1-year pilot project to look at the concept of damage deposits. We would plan to, after a year of operating in our new 3-quote system and having an RFP that's awarded, which hasn't been yet, we would then evaluate the numbers for the end of 23-24. So that was our time frame, pardon me, to get those numbers.
Sorry, you can't get me that number till a year from now?
That would be when we were planning to track those numbers.
Could you get them sooner?
Thank you. So we don't currently have that information. Our teams are working, again, in the 2 areas of improvement that we've talked about in terms of getting the best, the 3-quote system, the RFP. So we do not currently have plans to track those 23-24 numbers until we're doing an evaluation of the new processes.
So it's not that you can't get this information sooner. I'm hearing that you won't get this information to me sooner. Can you clarify, Minister?
I don't think it's a matter of won't. I think it's concern around implementing the new policy, getting things going, and of course with limited resources within the ministry and other important work going on besides hotels or whatever. But if this is the will of the committee, we can, the ministry can look into those. And in terms of a time frame, it's tough to put an exact number on it, but if the committee wishes so, that can be undertaken in the next couple of months, I think.
Minister, when you wrote this letter, it was February, it was early February, you provided me numbers up until, till the end of September. So that was a 3-month turnaround. Is it safe to assume that kind of timeline would be reasonable for this update? I think this needs to be a priority. You know, this is a hotel owned by a government MLA. People have questions, rightly so. It also looks like hotel expenditures are trending upwards. It looks like expenditures at this government MLA-owned hotel are trending upwards. You know, I think it's important to prioritize this for the people of Saskatchewan, given that there are a lot of questions around not only the fact that this is a government-owned hotel, but also just how is housing policy functioning more generally. When the story first broke, you said that hotel use was trending down. That turned out not to be the case. That speaks to policies that aren't working very well if we're having to rely more and more on emergency hotels. So I'm really glad to hear that the ministry has adopted new policies around hotels. I still think that from an accountability, transparency perspective, we need to close this loop on everything that went down up until hotel policy and this government's approach to hotels changed.
So I'll start off and then I'll get Mr. Exner to clarify a few things. But in terms of priority, I'd say within the ministry there are many things that are going on, as well as the Housing Corporation. That may be your priority, this particularly narrow focus on hotels, but I certainly as the minister have many priority areas: child and family, CLSD clients, family reunification, in-house supports to keep families together. And so Frankly, those do take a higher priority from my perspective. However, we'll take your suggested timeline and take that under advisement. But in terms of I think you've misrepresented what I may have said in the House. That was on the income assistance side. That was the information I had at the time, but like I said, I'll turn it over to Mr. Exner to clarify in terms of usage over time.
Thanks, Minister. Yeah, so the numbers that were previously quoted, and I believe as part of this committee as well last year, we had referenced about $1 million in expenditures in 21-22 and $0.85 million in 22-23, and those were related to individuals that could not access an emergency shelter. So those stats were more readily available and were tracked. So that was the information that was provided. Of course, there's a whole number of reasons why the ministry rarely provides funds for clients to stay in hotels. There's a variety of circumstances that do occur. So they're at risk of homelessness, they're seeking safety due to interpersonal violence, currently living in unsafe living conditions, to facilitate family visits, participating in family reunification, maintaining family contact and/or cultural case planning, attending healthcare appointments outside of their home community, supporting foster parents and extended family caregivers with children in care to participate in recreation, school, or cultural activities, and facilitating OPICs, which includes travel and accommodations for elders and the cost of the meeting rooms to host OPIC.
Minister, I understand there are a number of reasons to use hotels. Can you break out any of that information for me? Do you track why you're using hotel rooms other than through the specific streams? If you do, I'd love to see that information. I guess, Minister, this does paint a picture. You know, every single year that expenditure goes up. What do you take from that as the Minister of Social Services? How do you interpret those numbers?
So in your question, I believe, was to me about in terms of interpreting those numbers. We have seen, as Mr. Exner talked about, a decrease in the income assistance. I think that somewhat has to do with the investments that the government's made in terms of increasing in shelter spaces and supportive living and those sorts of things. And as we go further along that, as we hope to open more beds and more spaces, as well as my colleague from Mental Health and Addictions, Minister McLeod, the work going on there, hopefully that will continue to decrease or maintain a steady rate. But acknowledging there are challenges out there, and you know, on the homeless side of things, in emergency situations, hotels are used, as you know. In terms of the child and family side, and I'll get the two ADMs to talk a little bit more about that, I would say it's good work that is occurring, and a hotel happens to be a place where it's a gathering point or a place to stay for whatever it might be, family reunification. And I hope the committee wouldn't put words in my mouth that it's a good thing. Of course, we'd love to have a situation where there's no children in care or a need for reunification. Of course, that's the case. But this is a challenging environment or situation we're in, and seeing more children come into care over time. But again, good work is happening to hopefully reverse some of those things, and hotels are one of the things needed to do that. So I turn it over to Mr. Exner and then to Ms. Eberhardt.
Thank you. Yeah, so as previously stated, our overall expenditures when folks couldn't get into an emergency shelter was $1 million in 21-22 and $0.5 million in 22-23, so the number is decreasing. This year, we do believe that we will be projected right around that same value of $850,000 as we kind of continue to work through that. A couple of things to note is, of course, this is an emergency response, and again depends on availability in emergency shelters. In some communities, there have been large fires, apartment fires, and house fires where individuals have had to be placed immediately to ensure that they had support and a roof over their head. So this year, we're seeing an increased number of those which require emergency support. So all in all, we are still forecasting that number to be about $0.85 million.
And then Ms. Eberhardt, on the child and family side.
Missed those. Sorry, I just missed the numbers, Mr. Exner, the first numbers you gave. Can you repeat those before we move on?
So for individuals that could not access an emergency shelter, it was approximately $1 million in 21-22 and $0.85 million in 22-23, and we're projecting for 23-24 to be roughly about $0.85 million.
Sorry, yeah.
Toby Eberhardt, Assistant Deputy Minister for Child and Family Programs. Within Child and Family Programs, we know that our hotel costs have been going up. One of the things that we've done that sort of has impacted that was in 2021, we implemented a new policy called Ensuring Family, Community, and Cultural Connections. And that policy requires for every child in care that we work, if they're First Nations or Métis, that we're working with their home First Nation or Métis community to develop a cultural case plan for them. And as part of that, it might have them having family visits more frequent, attending their home community for certain cultural events. And in addition to that, we have really been focusing on our OPICs, which is a dispute resolution process that we've been trying to use instead of a court process for families. And as part of that, we need to bring groups together, usually in a meeting room. We bring elders to that, the family, whoever their supports are, and that can be up to a 5-day event. So we've seen that cost going up as well.
Ms. Eberhardt, to what extent do a lack of placements impact using hotel rooms for apprehended children and youth? Is that a driver of hotel use?
Don't use hotels for children's placements, but there would be times that children maybe are placed in a different community and we're bringing their families to visit them, or their families are living somewhere else. So sometimes children are placed with extended family in a different community, and so we're using hotels to have their parents come visit them, or the other way around.
In situations where you don't have a spot for a child or youth, be it in a group home where you can't find a foster placement or a extended family member, you don't use hotels in that situation?
It's been very rare that we've ever had to use a hotel in the last few years for a placement, and it would be because of something unusual, such as bad weather and they weren't able to travel somewhere. We work with our community partners, and our Indigenous partners have really been helpful, and when we require placement, they are usually able to help us develop something in an emergency, so we haven't had to rely on hotels as a placement option.
So the main, like sorry, maybe steep isn't fair, but this increase in hotel reliance in the family and children services stream is mostly just due to accommodating visits and elders? Yes?
Ensuring children are getting connected and attending their home communities for events.
Minister, I understand that you are trying to distinguish from these two streams, but the income assistance versus the child and family services stream. But in my experience, if there is an open child and family services file, you'll often use that funding stream to address the need for an emergency hotel in a situation of homelessness or housing insecurity. So I guess I'm struggling to understand. I guess my first question is, do you acknowledge that? Do you agree that these numbers captured by Child and Family Services also capture housing and homelessness issues in addition to the income security stream?
So within child and family programs, our first priority is always to support families to stay safely together. And so we do use hotels to prevent children from having to come into care if the family does not have safe housing. It's not the majority. I think when we look at really our use more around the OPICs and around the cultural case planning and family visits, but we will use hotels to keep families together.
Minister, do you have any data to support, these claims? Like, are you breaking down the reason for hotel use? Because I'd understood the data that you collected wasn't this nuanced. But if you have this data, like, can you tell me what you have and can you provide it?
Thank you. As you'll recall, when this issue started being discussed, the minister directed the ministry to look into Sunrise expenditures over the past 5 years, and that is information that we would be able to break down by child and family and income assistance. We don't have that information more broadly.
Okay, but that wasn't my question. My question was further to that because, you know, Evelyn Harper, that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. She was evicted, but that hotel, so it was a housing issue, a homelessness issue, but that hotel was covered through Child and Family Services. So there's, you know, what I hear you saying is, don't, you know, numbers coming down on the income assistance side, so nothing to see here, and then on the Child and Family Services side, it's going up, but most of the work being done through that side on hotels is around family reunification and OPIC. I'm wondering, do you have any proof? Like, are you tracking the reason that you're using hotels at all? And can you, like, are you breaking that down at all? Because I'd understood you weren't, apart from the two streams.
So in terms of, I'll get the two assistant deputy ministers to talk, but in terms of something you had said, it was something along the lines of nothing to see here. I think, I'm not sure where that came. I haven't said that. That is, the officials have worked very hard to come up with the information that has been asked for. And so they appear as they are. I think I've acknowledged there are certainly challenges out there in our province, and we're working very hard to try and address those with in this budget and in previous budgets. Certainly not a panacea by any means, and hotels are used when needed, oftentimes in emergency situations where shelters are full. So I'm not sure I'd characterize it that way, but I turn it over to ADM Exner and then Eberhard to answer the other part of the question.
Thank you. As outlined in the letter sent by Deputy Minister Kratzik on February 8th, it does outline the policies for income assistance as it relates to hotel usage. So we do have short-term emergency supports that are available to clients when they need due to unforeseen situations or circumstances. There's also procedures around that, around authorizing the approval of the stay. There are travel benefits that are available for those clients if they have to travel outside of their current residence. And then those that are coming from another province or maybe leaving to go to another province for some reason that require a hotel stay, there's a policy for that as well. Each of those payments is made directly off the client file and they're not categorized, that we can easily report on that information.
And within child and family programs, so our policies, so under our child protection policy, we can use hotels in exceptional circumstances to maintain a family unit and prevent children from coming into care. So we would know when we use that policy, but we wouldn't necessarily know the circumstances. So it could be the family had some kind of backup sewerage and they need to get out of the house for a couple days. It could be that they didn't have safe housing. It could be they were fleeing a domestic violence situation. So the policy is pretty broad, but the detail, it would be the caseworker and their supervisors that would know more the detail of why we use that. We also have policy around using hotels for costs associated with visits for children in care, and that could include food, transportation, accommodation. So again, we would know under what policy we made a payment, but the details would have to go in again, talking to the caseworker, going into our system to see more that minute details of that. And we also have policy around using hotels, like mentioned before, for OPICs. So there's a certain section of our policy that allows that. And we have policy to allow us to use accommodations for children in care for recreational opportunities. And then also around allowing so children can have visits with their families. So we have distinct policies, but the details, again, you would have to go in to see the specific details.
Thank you. And I guess that is kind of what I was getting at. I have received a lot of information on, the policies and what's available, what circumstances may cause people to access hotels. But as they say, the devil is in the details in terms of what is driving these numbers and what is driving the increase. And it sounds like we don't actually know. We have a partial picture. We don't have a full picture. And I think I gave the example of Evelyn Harper. That was a hotel expenditure made in the Child and Family Services stream, but that was due to an eviction. It was due to houselessness. And I guess, Minister, you push back against my comment of nothing to see here. I guess what I'm getting at is it sounds to me like, I guess I'll pose this in another way. Is it a controversial statement, in your view, to say that homelessness is going up in Saskatchewan?
I think the member of the committee asked if this is a contentious issue or is it a controversial thing to say that homelessness is a challenge. No, I don't think that's the case at all. There's certainly challenges in our province. There's challenges in Alberta, Manitoba, BC, every state in the nation, California in particular. And so we're dealing with complex issues and challenges, just like many across our nation. In terms of, knowing an exact number, that can certainly be a challenge. A number of people experiencing homelessness. I know there's point-in-time counts, and that's done by the, the third-party CBO sector. But what I can certainly tell you what we are doing, because we know there are challenges out there. We're taking a coordinated approach. I talked about this in my opening comments about the need for increased shelter spaces. We often hear it. The conversation around homeless camps and, well, if they're not here, what do we do with these individuals? So we need spaces for them. We're trying to increase the amount of shelter spaces here in our province by 100, and that is directly in this budget being supported. It includes supportive living. That is also contemplated in this budget, as I said in my opening comments. Complex needs emergency shelter is another avenue. These are 2 15-bed spaces here in Regina and Saskatoon for those most complex of individuals who are experiencing their challenges with mental health and addictions are often the two most dealt with on the homeless side of things. Large investment in those 2 facilities, 24-hour facilities that are essentially medical facilities, and those are meant, again, for those most complex of individuals who have maybe have been banned from various shelters or various organizations because of whatever the case may be. It might be behavior, it might be other things, and so those 2 facilities are meant to fill that gap. Some of the other things that we're working on, increasing the amount of funding to the Saskatchewan Housing Corporation on the repair of units to get those turned over as quickly as I can. I know that's been a challenge over the last several years with those units, and I'm sure we'll get into that later, so maybe I'll save my comments for that a little bit later. Outreach services, we have organizations like the Saskatoon Tribal Council. We're funding outreach with the Swayatoten project. We've been partners with that. Community outreach to try and meet individuals where they are in the community to help get them to the many supports that are out there, as well as, again, in talking in my opening comments about some of the work we're doing in the income assistance side for having those outreach individuals on the income assistance casework side to be at different facilities, and we want to expand that. So many different categories and many different areas working with our CBO partners, our municipal partners, to try and bring some of these projects online. I could certainly go into the supportive work we're doing with Neo Utina here in Regina, Phoenix Residential here in Regina, to support individuals. So not controversial to say that the challenges are increasing. Many different reasons for that, and probably goes down to the individual level as to the challenges an individual might be facing, trauma, whatever the case may be. But I think what I'm trying to say here is there's a lot of things the provincial government is doing to try and help individuals when they do come forward needing help, and that work is continuing all the time with, again, our partners in the CBO sector who do great work each and every day. So absolutely, it's a challenge. I acknowledge that, and many of the things in government we're doing, not only on from MSS side, talked about that coordinated approach with corrections and policing, with with our with my colleague in mental health and addictions, and of course the health side. So we're all on the human services side of things, trying to help these situations, and again avoiding some of those higher cost services. I think that when people don't have a place to go, they often find themselves in those situations as well. So is the job complete? By no means. But I think this government's showing that we care about this situation, number one. The folks in this room care a lot about it. They've committed their working lives to make things a little better, and we should be thankful and acknowledge that. But to say job complete or there isn't more to do, obviously I hope I didn't give the committee that indication at all.
Minister, my question was not whether homelessness is a challenge. My question was whether homelessness is going up. You referenced the point-in-time counts. Those suggest that homelessness is indeed going up across the province in not small ways, in significant ways. Do you, as Minister of Social Services, acknowledge that homelessness is getting worse?
So in terms of the member's question, I think is homelessness getting worse? I think the numbers, it wouldn't surprise me the next point in time, the numbers go up globally. the number going up just like it has in many jurisdictions around our world. I'd say the complexity, that is sort of anecdotally, I'm hearing about that as well, the complexity of individuals and their challenges they are facing. But, you know, in terms of an individual, I would hope that there are opportunities for things to be less worse for an individual. And some of those investments I talked about, having a place for them to say, maybe getting some of those wraparound supports available to them if they so choose. Again, I'll get ADM Michaud to talk about some of the things we're trying to track with the provincial approach to homelessness in a second here. Again, difficult to say an exact number as things go along, but in a general sense, the numbers are increasing. But in an individual sense, I hope there is some hope for people out there working with the CBO sector, working with in the health system, for example, on a recovery. I think that's certainly the way out for many individuals experiencing challenges, is to be able to, you know, find a better path, whether it's that initial point is at a homeless shelter, whether that's at a complex need emergency shelter, whether that's a supportive living environment. Hopefully there can be those, again, like I said, I might be repeating myself a bit here, but those wraparound supports can hopefully make things better for an individual, and having those supports available. So in terms of getting worse, I'd say the numbers are going up, but hopefully if someone is able to connect and wanting to connect, I think that's an important aspect of this as well. There are more options, there are more doors, there are more facilities, there are more caseworkers, there are more CBOs in this space. Thank goodness for them that, you know, things are getting a little bit better because of those supports out there for individuals that choose to take those supports. So a lot of work to do. I think we are actively working on it, made some significant investments. Is it case closed, game over? Absolutely not. There's certainly more to do. But I want to get ADM Michaud to talk about some of the numbers we're tracking, get a little context around this stuff.
Louise Michaud, Assistant Deputy Minister for Housing. What we want to accomplish with the provincial approach to homelessness is to make sure that we bring all of government's, you know, services to bear on the situations that people are facing. And to that end, we have had a very strong governance and collaboration among ministries, as Minister Makowski noted, with the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Corrections, Policing and Public Safety. We have an oversight committee of assistant deputy ministers that you know, oversees the approach, the provincial approach to homelessness. The reason that we are doing it this way is because we recognize that there will be no one ministry that's going to be able to provide all of the services that one individual or a group might need to respond to their homeless situation. And what we need to be able to do is wrap those services around, and more so as the implementation of the provincial approach to homelessness proceeds. This is, of course, the 155 supportive housing units and the 100 new shelter spaces, which are, you know, a combination of enhanced emergency shelters and basic emergency shelters. But we will be developing our you know, comprehensive evaluation framework so that we are able to understand what the outcomes that we are achieving through this service delivery model. So we'll be looking to understand what is the impact of this service on an individual's use of other services and an individual's need for emergency health care versus being able to access primary health care. We're going to be looking at, you know, people's progress in acquiring and maintaining stable housing, and, you know, and making sure that we understand that stable housing will look different for people depending on their needs. So we'll be working through the continuum of housing, whether that be, shelter spaces while that's all a person is ready or able to access, through the supportive housing continuum for some individuals, to social housing, or potentially, independent market housing. But we'll be tracking at the individual level what the impacts of the services they're receiving are.
Thank you. I just want to go back to that February 8th letter from Ms. Kratzek. We had a little discussion about questions I haven't asked before. One of the questions I have asked before is thrift lodge expenditures going back 6 years. And just for some context, we didn't make that ask originally because we didn't have the information that we received on February 8th that one of the top 3 utilized hotels by the ministry was the Thrift Lodge. And then we learned that Mr. Gruel, member for Regina Northeast, is an investor in that hotel. We also, going off just Googling rates for these hotels, and I understand those shift from time to time, we see that the Thrift Lodge, according to the information you provided, your ministry provided, is charging the average highest rates at $186 per night. That's more than any other hotel, I believe, across the province is charging. And this is in comparison to hotels such as the one in Saskatoon that have a much higher market rate than the Thrift Lodge. So naturally, we're very concerned about that, the inflated rates, the connection of another hotel to a Sask Party MLA. Do you have that information today? If not, can you speak to why not? It seems that you've done a lot of number crunching here, like you've provided the expenditures out to that hotel at least for the past 2 years you've looked at it. So wondering what the holdup is and if you can speak to that, and wondering when we can get that information. Ideally, we'll get it today.
we will provide those answers. I believe we have a agreed upon break time, so for the next hour, but after that we can provide most of the information I think the member asked for.
Thank you, Minister. So it now being 5 p.m., we will recess until 6 p.m.